Hi everyone, Michelle here from The Creative Cove. Thanks for joining me today. I thought we could elaborate some more on these papers that I made the other day in another video, and I'll link that below. These kind of faux, what would you call them? Botanical garden type pages, and I showed how to do it and where I got the idea from. And so I thought today we could decorate and elaborate them even more and really have some fun with some mixed media, because I don't often do mixed media, but I'm really loving how things bleed and the grunginess of it all, and I thought it'd be a really fun thing to play with. So if you're interested in that, so stick around with me. I've got a couple of scraps that I've pulled out. I don't have a huge selection on my desk. I want to keep it relatively simple. I have some dyes, I have some distressed ink spray, and what else have I got? I've got a little bit of white paint, which is kind of messy, but I thought we could play and see where we go. I kind of like the look of this page, so I'm going to leave this one. And I also really like the look of this flower here, so I might leave that as well. This one I think we can play with a little bit. So I showed how I did this in the last video and how it bled, and now it's completely dry. And I'm loving how it has these really beautiful textures to it. And just the softness of these shapes and how how some of them are transparent and some of them are more opaque. And I just love how you cannot predict what you're gonna get, if that makes sense. It's always a happy surprise. So let's start with this page maybe. So I'm going to move this out of the way. I'm going to give myself a acetate base because mixed media can be quite messy, and I am messy. So I'm just going to put that down, and I'm going to put that on top. And then I thought maybe we could play with some of these pages and just kind of I just want to remember where my crease is. Not that it matters. I mean, it can go over. Doesn't really matter. I just thought maybe we could play with some papers, maybe some gesso. So I'm going to use some paint here as glue, and I'm just going to throw that on, and I'm going to glue my paper down. And let's just play with our fingers today. How about that as a challenge? Just only fingers. No tools, except maybe a stamp or two, but we're going to get our hands dirty on this one, which I really like to do. So I'm just gonna stick down some papers, I think. And I do like the coffee dyed look, so most of my papers are very neutral. And I kind of want to leave this. I do really like it, so I want to give myself some space there to play with. And then I thought we could give it a little bit of contrast by brightening up some of these spaces with a little bit, and this is just white basic acrylic titanium white paint, and maybe just kind of slowly picking up on some of the texture of this paper. And what's great about mixed medium is you really can go back and forth till you get something you really like, something you're really happy with. So I find the more I think about it, the longer I think about things, the worse my pages get, because I overthink it. If I just let myself let loose and go for it, then I tend to like the results better. So I'm using this spray Distressed Oxide in Vintage Photo, which is what I used on the original, and a wet brush. And I'm just going to try and darken some spots and try to get this to absorb in different ways. So we'll see what it does with the paint. We might like it, we might not. So I know I said we'd use our fingers, but to really apply this, we kind of need a brush. And we're gonna let that dry for a minute. And let's see how I've got some left over. Let's just stick it on the page here. Let's just absorb it up. I'd like to get one of those jelly plates. I don't have one of those. I think they look like so much fun. I see other people use them and they just look like so much fun to me. Like the effects you can get from them. So I just want a little bit of that writing to poke through over on this side as well. But I'm really liking this white paint. And I'd imagine as the white paint dries, it will absorb some of this color, this distress oxide ink, because it's an ink, it will bleed. So I'm imagining it will bleed through this white paint. I'm just gonna throw in a little bit. We'll let that dry. So I just rub my finger across it gently and it just grabs all those pretty textures. So really fun. Let's try a print. Let's see, I've got this leaf one that I did. I'm not a huge fan of this one, but it might be a good way to use it up. So I'm gonna ink it up with my coca colored, what's it called? Close to My Heart ink pad. Let's put that in there. And it's a darker brown, which I kind of like. So if I'm finding that just a little bit too strong, I can just wet it, dilute it, and distort it. And another layer. So we're gonna put that aside, let that one dry for a minute, and we'll do another one. So this one's got a mushroom on it. Let's do the mushroom. So this one had, what are they called? Hydrangeas in them. Really pretty. I thought maybe we could do some sort of label or something with this. Or a pocket maybe. Should we do a pocket? Pocket's kind of cute. So I'm just gonna dirty it up. Maybe we'll use the distress oxide to dirty that. Let's dirty it up. And I'm just gonna dab it off on this cloth. I want to get this really grungy, this piece of material that I have, which is why I'm using it underneath. Even though I'm protecting it, I don't want a perfect square of things, but when I have to dab stuff off to the side, I'll use this piece of fabric that I got at the thrift shop so that it gets grungy and messy so I can use it. Oh, what should we put on here? Let's maybe cut a little piece. Now I did start some other pages. Hang on one second. See what's dry. There's a couple here that are almost dry, but we can use them. So we can maybe use the piece off these. So I tore these ones by accident because I was impatient. And let's use the daisies. I kind of like the daisy. Yeah, let's try using the daisy, see how it turns out. Well, it's torn, so maybe I'll just keep tearing it. Why not? And so I'll use the paper in a fun way. So this was done the same way as I did those, and you can see it's pretty subtle. They're not super bright, they're very soft and subdued, which I kind of like the look of. So I'm just gonna use that same distress oxide spray with a wet brush and get the edges here. And maybe we'll glue that to there. See if my glue will work. It's starting to act funny on me. And we'll use this side. So it kind of gives that very fragile, old, vintage botanical feel that I really like. Here's a scrap here. Maybe we'll put that across the bottom and we'll put a word on there or something. Now, words is something I don't have a lot of. I would love to be able to order those pre-cut out sayings and words, but it's just not in my budget. So I have to usually handwrite them, or I use a little tool. I don't have it with me, but I use a little tool to print it out, like one of those little press tools, and you can write words on a piece of plastic. I didn't bring it out with me. I think I might have packed it. That would be my luck. That's kind of cute. I like that. And a piece of lace across here would be really nice too, but I don't think I brought any of that out. So disorganized. Nope, Don't have any, because I thought I would just, oh, I do. Aha. Here's a scrap. Never know what you're gonna find on my desk. There, perfect, just what I wanted. I thought I'd try to limit my supplies. One being, oh, here's an old sketch that I didn't like. Limit my supplies. I'm also in the middle of moving, so I have to start separating supplies of what I might use on a regular basis. But then I want to make another video, and I'm like, I need my supplies. It's so hard to part with materials. It really is. And I mean, you can take a sewing machine to this too. That would be really nice. Just to reinforce the pocket, because this is delicate, right? It's pretty strong, but it's flimsy. So the pocket, if you're gonna use it a lot, if it's more functional than decorative, then I would probably sew it or reinforce it. So there's a little pocket, which is kind of cute. I have this stamp that I always use too. It's I use it in almost all my videos. It's just an illegible writing type stamp. I got it off Amazon. I'm gonna throw a little bit of that in here. And I don't press the whole stamp down. I just use little corners, which is why I peeled it off that wood block, so it's more flexible. And I can just use little bits and pieces as opposed to the whole solid square. So there's that. That's kind of cute. So maybe we'll make a tag to go in here. Let's see. That one's still a bit wet, actually. These are still a bit damp. Yeah, they're still damp. That's all right. So I'm gonna cut a piece out. And then we'll make a tag out of it with some scraps here. Pulled some scraps out of my repertoire. That's pretty. How about something like this? And here's some old sketches, scrap sketches that it didn't have a use for, but that might have a use for it now. Maybe put that on the other side. Okay, so let's maybe rip it. And any chance I can use like flowers or any garden elements at all in my journals, I'll go for it, because it seems to be my favorite subject is the garden and nature. So I do a lot of sketching and try to teach others to sketch, you know, have fun with it, and try not to be discouraged. Just go for it, have fun. That's part of my quickie sketch videos that I do. And I do get a lot of positive feedback. I do get people who are discouraged a little bit because they don't nail it the first time, or they don't feel like they can sketch. But I really love it when I hear people are gonna give it a try and go for it, you know, that makes me really happy. So just gonna maybe use this here, this piece of paper, just for a little tag. I like that. Maybe move this up a little bit. And we're gonna dirty up this page now, so let's add some of this. I'm gonna dab it off so it's not quite so wet. Let's add a little bit of white paint to it maybe. So I just dip my finger in my paint again. Dirty fingers. That's how I roll. There, just a little bit. And then maybe what we'll do is use that stamp. So the paint is wet. You're gonna get a little bit on your stamp, but you can wipe it off, you know. As long as you get it while it's wet, it will be all right. And then I'm gonna glue this guy down. I like that. Come on, glue. There we go. Yeah, this paper has a real romantic feel to it. I think that's the word I would describe it best, is like an old vintage romantic paper. Does that make sense? And I think I'm going to just tear this now. Yeah, that's kind of cute. If I had my corner rounder, I would use it, but I don't, so I'm just going to do my best with my scissors. And this is still pretty wet, so. And I think I'll darken up the edges. Just for even more contrast, and this piece is not glued. Throw a little glue in there. And then maybe a piece of lace glued to the top for a little pull. And this is a really great place to start adding your sketches in. If you sketch along with me, which I hope you do, there's nothing more satisfying than creating a journal with your very, very own personal work. There's some beautiful digital kits out there, which always are wonderful to use. It's also nice to incorporate your very own work. So there's that. And I think I might stamp this. I feel like it needs something bold on it. So what have I got? I've got my bird, my mushroom, my leaf. Where's my little flower one? I really like to use this one. So this one here. So I'm just gonna use a little bit, and I'm just gonna go right over top. I really love how broken up it is. I really love that. That's just me. And maybe put one on the back just for a surprise. Surprise. And you can even add a little bit to the bottom here so it ties it in together. Really cute. I like that. I think I'd like to grunge up the side of this paper a little more. A little less water this time. So clean my brush up on my fabric. So the drier the brush, the more rich the ink will be. More saturated, I guess would be the word. And I like these kind of edges where it dries on a harsh line. I think that's really nice as well. But if you don't, you can soften it out with a brush like that. There. And if we want even more contrast, you can add a little bit of that white paint back in and just kind of go over and grab that texture. There, so we'll let that dry because it's starting to curl a bit. Let's do this side. So I had that drawing that I had. This looks like I drew, what's that stuff called? Oh my goodness, Queen's Anne lace. So let's put that in there. I think that would be a nice little addition. I haven't done a video on Queen's Anne's lace, but I can if you want. It's grows everywhere here, and it's got that really angelic kind of look to it when it flowers. And my favorite part of it is actually the leaves. It has these really beautiful, soft leaves. I don't know if I managed to, yeah, here's some. So I did press some, and I put it in this paper. So there's the Queen Anne lace flower, and there's the Queen Anne's lace leaves, and you can see how delicate and intricate they are. They're so pretty. That's all I had left to use with this paper. So it's quite pretty. So I use that as well. Now I'd like to maybe soften this a little bit. So let's add some ink and some paint. Kind of blend it in a little more. Get my fingers dirty. Just having a messy old time. Lots of fun. Oh, I dunk all my fingers in it. And that's why I need studio space, because I make an awful mess. So great way to use up your little sketches here too. All right, get that out of the way. Add a little bit more maybe of this stress things. You know what we should do? We should do some splattering or something. That would be fun. I wonder if we could do that with this. I usually get it everywhere but on the paper. It's one of my dilemmas. So it splattered a little bit there, but maybe we could do it with some white paint. So what I would need is somewhere to mix a little bit of water and some white paint till I get the consistency I want. And this brush is a little bit thick to do this with, so let's try this brush where it's a little bit more frayed, and maybe whack it with something. Yep, that's fun. I like that. So we've got some little white, and we'll see what happens with the ink, how much it absorbs. Yeah, I do like that. So actually I think I might get my fingers back in my white paint here real quick, and just maybe right here, make it a little bit whiter so that I can add a word there. I don't want to cover up the flower, but let's see how white that stays. Wipe it off on my, my fingers. Yeah, good times. Okay, so we'll let that one dry. Is this one dried a little? Yeah, almost. Yeah, I like those two. All right, maybe one more. You want to do one more with me? And then we'll put the book back together. Where's my book? Well, it's not a book yet. It's more like a signature. I like that one as is. Let's do this one. So this one's got a bright color to it. Let's see what we can do with this. This is quite pretty. So this was a, what's it called? A hydrangea that I had pressed, and when it went into the paper, it was a bright reddish pink color, say bright pink, and then it went this purple, and it kind of bled a little bit too, which was really a nice surprise. I'm just going to throw a little bit of that diluted color on there. I'm just going to move this backside around to try and absorb some of that. There. Now what do we want to do? Should we add a butterfly? Got these little things from the dollar store. I like the orange with the purple. It's kind of pretty. It's a bit big. The smaller orange one. This one's nice. Let's use that. So how will we use it? I think what we could do is just use some of this watered down white paint, stick it on, and then grab another piece of tissue. I might have to wait a little while for that piece to dry. Stick that on top. And what it does is it subdues that bright color. So the orange isn't quite as vivid anymore, but it still shows up the butterfly. And I think that will dry a little bit thinner, a little bit more clear. I love this piece of paper. I don't know where it's from, but I think we need to put this in here somewhere. Or maybe we can make a belly band with it. A flimsy belly band. Let's try. Because my paper's pretty wet right now, don't know, let's do it on this side. It's a little bit more dry. Put it here. And let's darken the edges. I like that. This is really wet. We might need to reinforce this paper while we're working on it, just because it's so wet. Maybe this here. I don't know if I want to cover the back though. I mean, it's gonna harden up as it dries, but I don't have editing software, so I can't come back later and show you. That's the only bummer about, it's kind of like this live mode that I have, is I can't come back. Let's see. I think our paper might be just a little bit too wet for this part. So let's grab another piece of paper while we wait for that butterfly to dry. So maybe this piece here. And that's got something interesting in already. Let's do this piece. This is the other half of that paper. I like that, just like that even, and just tucking something in behind it. So let's do it. And so you can just keep snowballing more and more ideas. The more you experiment with mixed media, the more you get dirty. That's when you know you're having a good time. So just keep playing with all these mixed media tools and check out different YouTubers and what they do. Lots and lots of fun with different mediums. That's too blue. I want to keep it neutral. That's too bright, but if we were to use the oxide, I think I'll like it. No, sorry, what was this called? Garden Party Nature by Garden Party, whoever that is. I don't know, I think I bought it at a scrapbook store. That's usually where I buy my paper. I don't have a printer, so I can't buy digi-kits. It's something I'd like to do myself. Been playing with Procreate a lot, and I would really like to put my sketches as a digital option, but I am so not computer friendly that I'm more likely to screw it all up. I want to make sure that people can actually buy my work without having issues printing it or the quality of it. So it's one of those things you really have to kind of research, and I haven't done that yet because technology is just not my thing. Straighten this up a little bit. Let's see here. Just a scrap piece of coffee dye. Oh, it had writing on the back. My happy place. There you go. This is my happy place. Right here with you guys. Yeah, like that. Okay, so working with wet material can be challenging too. I just don't have patience to let things dry, which can have damaging results sometimes, but it also can have different results because things are wet and then you're maneuvering more material into it, and then it creates another look. So it really just depends on your style and the way you work. Everybody works their own special way and has their own method and creative process, and I think that's why we all come up with so many different ideas, which is a lot of fun. So I like that, like that. What else can we do to it? Does it fit? Yeah, that fits. Oh, did I glue it all together? There we go. So we could maybe put something on this. I don't know, what should we put on that? What have I got left kicking around? I've got a tiny little fern here, a little yellow flower. I wonder if we could stick that down somehow. Just with some glue maybe. And maybe a little scrap. Will it show up? Let's try something plain. Let's try gluing it first. So normally I would use like a varnish or something, but I don't have my varnish. Apparently I packed it. And I have a video on how I do varnished flowers on paper and they become flexible. So I'm gonna use this Fabri-Tac permanent adhesive, and I'm gonna put a little bit over top, and we'll see if that will work. Because I can't imagine why it wouldn't. It's glue, so it will dry. I just want to seal that flower on there so that it doesn't break off in the middle of using the book. So there we go. And maybe just a little bit of this, just a touch. I don't want to wet it because the glue's wet. And just add a little bit of interest to the edges here. And then glue down. So this flower is still pretty wet. Well, it would be really neat. You could add some stitching to this, some lettering. I wish I had selections of words I could use, because I don't like my own handwriting. There, so that's just going to dry. And that glue on top, once it's dry, should create a barrier to protect it. So the varnish works really well in the video. I'll try and remember to link that one. See, I'll record, and then when I upload it, I forget what I've promised. So just check out my channel if it's not there like I say it's going to be. I apologize. I'm going to put maybe just a little bit more interest around the edge of this. It's a bit too boring for my taste. And maybe it'll splatter again. Oh, that's wet. What a mess. Nope, that's not wet enough now. Ooh, in my eyeball. Got it in my eye. There. That's kind of fun. All right, I'm gonna let that dry for a sec. And we'll go back to these pages and we'll put them back together because I think they're pretty dry. They're not 100% dry. So maybe I won't put them together because they'll glue together. And here's the butterfly. It's not quite dry yet either, but you can see like there's that piece of paper stuck over really subdues that bright color. And you can bring it back by just scratching the paper away. If it's too subdued for you, right? Nothing's ever permanent. So you don't like it, you can scratch it away, and you could probably do that while it was wet too, while it was dry too. So I think I like it more vibrant. Yeah, I do. Though I would probably subdue it maybe just a little with some of this distressed oxide again. Let's go crazy and spray it. Let's see. See how you have no control over it? That's what I don't like about the spray. So I find that a little bit too saturated. So I'm just going to take my brush and thin that out with some water. Now I've made things really wet. Let's wipe some of this off. There. And maybe really play with that texture again by adding some dirty paint fingers to it with some white paint. Yeah, dipped in the wrong finger again. But again, just playing back and forth, really having fun, getting messy. Why not? And, you know, part of this creative process leads you to more creative ideas. So even if every page you make is not a, you know, profound success, you're going to learn something from it that you'll remember that technique. It appeals to you, and then you'll end up thinking, oh, I'm going to do what I did that day to this page, and you're going to learn more every time. Okay, so I've made a mess here, but I had some fun. I'm going to try and put back some of my drier pages. And again, just really using this paper is just so much fun. I love creating this paper. I've got a whack load beside me drying with ferns in it. And oh, I wanted to show you this really quick. May or may not do a video. I'm not 100% sure if I will or not. I'm just going to layer these because they're not quite dry. I wanted to show you this. So I took the same technique with the dried flowers. So there are some dried flowers in here, but I use scrap paper. And I use pre-stamped scraps. So you can see they bleed and they create this really nice softness. And of course, this is just coat number 1. This hasn't really had a chance to fully dry. And on this one, I used a piece of scraps cardstock. So you can see the cardstock here as opposed to 2 pieces of tissue paper. And that's because I wanted to maybe make a cover out of this one. So I wanted it a little bit meatier. So there was that idea. So may or may not do a video on that. And here's another one where I used the same scrap piece of cardstock. I think it was off a music notebook or something. And I was practicing some stamps here. Some sketches that, some etching that I did, lino cutting, and I'm trying to do a window, and I'm not 100% happy with it, but I think it's okay. And I did some pressed flower, it's the same technique as before, but instead using cardstock at the bottom and one piece at the top. And I think this would make a really, really nice tag or something like that because it's thicker. And this is still a bit damp, so it's still soft, but it should harden. So there's that idea. All right, so we did this guy today, played with that. That's really quite a nice page, I think. Really got a lot of fun texture to it. I really, really love this whole mixed media stuff. And we did this one with the little pull-out. And again, these are wet, which is why it's curling. So we'll leave that, and that flower is dry now. So it did seal it, and it's still pretty flexible, and the flower's not gonna come off. It's not gonna break, it's not brittle, it's coated. And then what else did we do? We did the little butterfly. We didn't do too much on that, but it's still, the splatter effect is quite pretty. And you've got some room for journaling there. And did we do any others? I can't remember. I think that was it, right? Oh yeah, we did the mushroom, didn't we? We did a pocket. We did this. So another nice little piece. Just gonna fold this up real quick. So there we go, playing with scraps, getting your hands dirty, having some fun with stamps, having some fun with making this paper, which I will link the other video below, I hope to remember to, and getting paints and dyes and things like that, and whatever you've got in your repertoire to play with. And there you have it. So these are a bit wet. They won't be quite as flexible as this, but it does make a kind of a sweet little romantic signature for a book. I hope you enjoyed that, guys. Have a great day. Take care. Bye.